Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today we are going to be talking about a very important topic, rather a comparative study between the life of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, in the Bible and in the Qur'an. For centuries now, the Christians majorly have alleged that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam copied from the Bible, which is completely false. From this story, even though there are a lot of similarities, but there are major differences in this story, which we'll love to talk about. And a good scientific miracle that the Qur'an mentioned that the Bible failed to mention. We'll see. Firstly, the Qur'an and the Bible talked about the dream of Joseph, which in the Bible you can find it in the book of Genesis chapter 37 verse 9, although there is an initial dream before that, but the one in verse 9 correlates with the one in the Quran, in the glorious Quran, Surah to Yusuf chapter 12 verse 4, where it stated that with qala Yusufu liabihi, that when Yusuf told his father, Ya abati inni ra'aytu, indeed my father I saw, ahada ashara Kaukaba, that I saw 11 stars or planets, Washamsa wal Qamar, a sun and the moon, Ra'aytuhum lisajdin, that they were prostrating to me. This was the same in verse 9, Genesis 37. The difference is that when Yusuf in the Quran told his father that he had this dream, the father told him not to speak this dream to any of his brother, and rather he interpreted the dream for him, telling him that Allah would teach him the interpretation of dream, and meaning that he made him a prophet. And so, and the other difference is that in the Bible, Joseph told his brother, which is one of the difference. Joseph told his brother about this dream, and they were jealous. And even in the Bible, the father was, when the father had the dream, he was like, "Are you going to reign over your brothers, myself and your mother?" Stuff like that. So it was totally different here. And the other difference was how he was taken out of his land. The one in the Quran was that the brothers already made a plan to kill him, while one of the brothers said, no, we should just dispose him off in a pit, and someone else will just pick him so that the blood will not be in our hands. They already made that plan a day before they met their father and told their father that, oh, please entrust Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam to us so that we go play with him and he could eat and enjoy himself out. But the father was worried, and he said, no, you guys shouldn't come back and give me the excuse that he was eaten by a wolf. But he agreed. But in the Bible, it was the brothers were feeding the flocks of the father in Shechem, and Yusuf, the father was the one that sent Yusuf to his brother, and when he was coming, they were making this plan that they are going to kill him, and their first the elders, Reuben, told them not to kill Joseph, but rather cast him in a pit. So they did that, but after a while, they were hearing some voice of the Ishmaelite coming, and they took him out of the pit and sold Joseph. But in the Quran, it wasn't like that. They didn't sell Joseph, which is one of the differences. In the Quran, while Yusuf was with them, they casted him into the well as well, but they never brought him to sell him. It was later some merchants were passing, or some traders, and they decided they wanted to take water from a pit, and they discovered that a child was there, and they picked him and took him to sell him in Egypt. That was one of the difference also. So when he got to Egypt, he was sold to Potiphar, who is the captain guy, the high-ranking officer in Egypt. In the Quran, he was called Al-Aziz. So he grew up there. They were good to him. So he became a fine, handsome young man. And the wife of the master had her eyes on him and lured him in to seduce him. In the Bible, it was mentioned that he escaped and left his garment in his hand. And because of that, this woman used this garment as an evidence to send Joseph to the jail, telling the husband that what you have brought in a Hebrew to mock us. And Joseph was sent to the jail. In the glorious Qur'an, the story was a lot more. When Yusuf والسلام, grew in the house of Al-Aziz, he became a fine young man, and the wife sought to seduce him just like in the Bible. But the difference here is that what he didn't leave the garment with the wife. He was struggling, and the garment was torn from the back, and he ran towards the door and he met Al-Aziz, the master. And immediately the wife started saying, "Oh, what will you do to a man who seek to, hurt your wife, rape your wife?" And it became a problem, and Yusuf tried to plead guilty, but it was difficult until a wise old man, I think is a relative from the wife, said, okay, if the cloth is torn from the front, that means it was the man seeking to rape the woman, but if it was torn from the back, it's the other way, which means that the woman was trying to rape the man. And when the cloth was checked, it was discovered that the Yusuf والسلام, was the one innocent here. And the husband told the wife to seek forgiveness and all. But this news became a scandal, and every woman in the city started talking about it. The wife of Al-Aziz tried to, get her hands on a slave or whatever, and it was becoming embarrassing, and the wife seek to make a plan. So she put out a notice that there will be a banquet, big banquet, and he invited all the women who is carrying all these gossips here and there. So to cut the long story short, when they arrived at this banquet, he gave them knife to cut one fruit or any fruit of their choices, and he told Yusuf to walk around. And guess what? The women couldn't get their eyes off Yusuf because he was very, very handsome. The Prophet already mentioned that what Yusuf has half of the beauty. So it was very funny that these women started cutting their own hands, their own fingers, and instead of cutting the fruits, because they were saying to themselves, this is not a man but an angel. So at this time they knew that the temptation wasn't an easy task. Wasn't an easy task for the wife of Al-Aziz, although some historians have mentioned that the wife of Al-Aziz is called Zuleika. And because of this, it was clear to the women, and they were even saying, "Oh, you should agree to your to your master's wife, whatever," and But the pressure was too much, so much that Yusuf والسلام, was pleading to God that what prison is more of liking to me than this temptation, because the temptation was never going to stop. The woman would continue to seduce this man, and it became a general knowledge that something is really happening. So to cover this up, Al-Aziz, the Potiphar in the Bible, decided to lock him up and frame him and just lock him. He's just an innocent slave, by the way. So when he got to prison, he had two companions. These two companions, one of them was the chief baker, and the other one was the chief butler. Now the chief butler had a dream, and in his dream he had a vine before him, and the vine has 3 branches. So as this 3 branch budded and blossomed into grapes, he said in the dream that in verse 11 that Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took in the grapes and I was pressing it, the wine, grape wine for him. So this is similar to the one in the Quran, because it was just short though that the chief butler he said he was pressing wine for the Pharaoh. So the same thing happened, and Yusuf told him that in the next 3 days, those 3 branches meant that in the next 3 days he would be freed, and he would go and be pressing wine for Pharaoh as he used to. Afterward, he told the chief butler that what, when you are freed, please don't forget to mention me to the king, to the pharaoh. So when the chief baker had this, he was like, oh, I had a dream too. So what does it mean? In his dream, he's mentioned, according to the Bible, that what, there were 3 white baskets, and these 3 white baskets, they were in his head, and the uppermost one had bread, and birds were eaten from it, which is similar to the Quran, although it wasn't as extensive like that. It was just mentioned that what, there were bread in his head and the birds were eaten from it. And Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam said that what, the 3 baskets also meant 3 days, that in the next 3 days you are going to be what, taken, and you are going to be hanged and killed rather. So this was the interpretation of the dream. The difference here is that what, in the Quran, it was mentioned that what, before he gave them, relate to them the interpretation of the dreams, he started preaching to them about monotheism, Tawheed, preaching to them about the one true God, the religion of his father, religion of his grandfather, and the religion of his great-grandfather, Abraham. So after that, the Bible mentioned that what, in the book of Genesis chapter 41, verse 1, that what, it took 2 years, after 2 years, that what, the dream of the king came, that's the Pharaoh, and he dreamt that what, that in the Nile River 7 sleek fat cows came out, and they were feeding in the reed grass, and behold, other slim ugly cow came and what, ate the big ones. And the Pharaoh awoke, and the second time he dreamt again. And the second time the king dreamt again, and this time, behold, 7 ears of grain, rather 7 spikes of grain, plump and good, they were growing on one stalk. And behold, after them sprouted another 7 ears, or 7 spikes, thin and blighted by the east wind. And the thin spikes grain swallowed up the 7 plumped good ones. And the Pharaoh woke up, and behold, it was a dream again. This was almost the same, a lot of similarities here with the Quran. There is no much different here, because it was the same. And the Quran was said that what, behold, 7 fat cows were eaten by 17 cows, and 7 green spikes, and 7 dry spikes of grains. So they were similar here. Before I continue, I would mention a word mentioned in the Quran and the Bible. Is a word in agronomy, which I mentioned as spikes or ears. The ears is spelled as E-A-R-S, ears, just like ears. So but rather it is called spikes. You know, in any grain, there are the inflorescence that are within a particular grain. Even the maize, those inflorescence within the maize itself, or the grain itself. So those are the spikes or the ears. So because we'll be talking about it later in this very story, and which is very, very important, the miracle in the Quran. When the king woke up in the morning, he gathered all the wise men, the magician, and all the elders in the council, and told them the dream. He related the dream to them, but none of them seemed to understand. They were just saying it might just be a mad dream, you know, forget about it. But he felt strongly that there was something behind the dream. And remember, the chief butler, he now confessed that while I was in prison, there was this person that interpreted my dream as well as the chief butler, and it came to pass that I am here and the chief butler is dead, was killed rather. Now the king asked, okay, go and get this person for me. Now there's a big difference in this scenario, in this very aspect. Now in the Bible, it was mentioned that what, in the Genesis chapter 41 verse 14, that what the king sent to what, get Joseph from the dungeon, and he then cleaned himself, shaved, and was in the presence of the Pharaoh. But in the Quran, it was a totally different story, because the chief butler himself went there and he called Yusuf, oh my trusted friend Sadiq, Ayyuha Sadiq, and he related the dream to him. And before I would go to the interpretation, we should know that what, unlike the Bible, Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam in the Qur'an said that what the issue why he was brought to prison should be investigated, that the women who cut their hands as a good witness to this, that it should be investigated so that he come out of the prison as a free man, not as a man that was pitied. For the interpretation in the Quran and in the Bible, it was the same, more like the same, because summarily it was talking about that in the for 7 years there will be good harvest, there will be good produce in the land, followed by the next 7 years that the land will be dry, there will be drought and everything. So the recommendation is what differs. In the Bible, it was mentioned that what Joseph told the Pharaoh that what the Pharaoh should appoint overseers over the land and take 1/5 of the produce over the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years, that there will be good produce, and let them gather the food of these years that are coming and lay up the grain under the authority. Take note here, he said store the grain. In other versions of the Bible, you say store the grains under the authority of Pharaoh in the city and keep them. This grain that will be kept will be for the 7 hard years. But in the Quran, it was mentioned in Surah to Yusuf chapter 12 verse 47. Yusuf said that what you shall what plant for 7 years consecutively, and whatever you harvest, leave them in its spikes, in its ears. That means do not take the grain out, except the few you or the little you want to consume, you want to eat. Do not take the grain out, leave it in its spike. A lot of readers might read the Quran and get past this and don't see the miracle there, but I tell you, make a research, and agronomers have did a lot of research in this, and what they found that what this is a miracle of the Quran. I will give you some example. The agronomers or the agriculturists that specialize in crops majorly have what carried out a research, and they found out that what the viability of a grain stored in their spikes has a durability of 15 years. They last for 15 years. And the ones without that are just grains stored in their grains, after 2 years or so, they have bacteria due to humidity and other germs, other factors in general. And also they discovered that what for 2 years the grains that are in their spikes will lose no protein or sugar level, but the ones left without the spike, that is the one with just the grain, will lose about 20 to 35% of their sugar level and the protein. And this is it. When we talk about Sudan, when Sudan was facing an embargo with the UN, the American, they were boycotted in trade. They couldn't import and they couldn't export, but they had enough grain to survive them. But they discovered that what when they stored this grain in their underground bunkers, they discovered that after 2 years the thing gets spoiled due to the germs, the bacteria, the fungus that might be affecting the crops. Then one of the agriculturists said, okay, why not we try what Yusuf tried in the Quran? Rather we store the grains, we find a bigger place and we store them in their spikes. And when they did this, guess what? It lasted 6 years more, and it was still good. Nothing happened to the grain, and this is a miracle from the Quran. After some years, Yusuf, or Joseph rather, became one of the most powerful person in Egypt. So, and after 7 years, just like the fulfillment of the dream, they were famine in the land of Egypt, even in the land of Canaan, where he came from. So the brothers came over to buy some grain, because they needed food. So they came. When they came and Joseph saw them, according to the Bible from chapter 42, he saw them. He recognized them, but they didn't recognize them, and he told them that what okay. Immediately he called them spies, that they are spies. They came to see the nakedness of the land, but They replied and they said, no, your servant, we are just, like, we are 12 brothers, and the youngest is with the father, and we've lost one. He said, for me to believe you, you have to come with the youngest one. Then he seized Simeon. So they went back to Canaan and told their father that, oh, this is what's happening. We need, Benjamin. Benjamin was the brother of Joseph. We need Benjamin so that to ascertain that we are not spies and all. And when they go home, they realize that their merchandise was returned to them and all. Just to summarize it, they got back to Egypt, and they had food there. And when they were going, according to the Bible, gold or silver was dropped in their bag, in the youngest one bag, which is Benjamin. So when they were going, they called them back, they announced that something has been stolen, and they checked their bag and they saw that it was Benjamin, and they had to lock him up. Now, the difference in the story here is that in the Quran, when Yusuf saw them, Joseph knew that these were his brother, but they knew him not. Unlike the Bible, what he did was that in the Quran, he gave them their measure of goods, and due to the conversation they've had, he knows that they have a brother. He said, why not bring your other brother from your father, that I might give you more, you understand, camel load, you understand? And no, the next time you come and you don't come with your brother, I wouldn't give you any of this good, but if you come with your brother, I'll give you more. So he encouraged them, and this concept is a concept of tarhim and targhib, the cane and the carrot, stick and the carrot method. He wanted to give them more if they come with the brother, and don't give them at all if they don't come with the brother. So when they got back to Canaan, their land, he returned. He told them to return the merchandise in their bag without them knowing. So when they returned to their land, they found the merchandise, their money, back in their bags as instructed by Joseph without them knowing. So this will enable them to have more money to at least come get more goods. So when they try to persuade their father that, we have to go with Benjamin, like we have to go back so that we can have more, but the father was like, no, this is how I entrusted you with Yusuf and you didn't come back with him. But at end, at last he agreed, and they went back to Egypt to get more goods with this time Benjamin. According to the Quran, immediately Yusuf saw Benjamin, he called him secretly and he told him that, oh, I am your brother, you understand? And he understood, but the Bible didn't mention this. So now, just like where we stopped in the Bible part, he was accused of stealing, and they caught Benjamin, but this was a plan. When Yaqub or Jacob learned about the fact that Benjamin have been apprehended by the authorities of Egypt, he became so sad. The condition worsened that he couldn't even see. His eyes became white, and due to grief. So this made the brothers restless. In the Bible, Reuben had to even keep himself there, instead of Benjamin, but Joseph didn't allow that. So, but at the end, Joseph couldn't bear to see the misery they were going through, so he admitted, oh, I am Joseph and I am your brother. So he admitted and told them that he has forgiven them. So in the Quran, it was mentioned that Joseph took his cloth and he sent it that, okay, give it to my father to put it on his face so that it can cure him of this blindness. He can see once again. So in the Quran, it was mentioned that even before this was mentioned in the Quran, though this is a version of the story I'm telling you. Before the cloth was even close to the land of Canaan, Yaqub was already smelling the cloth from a very far distance, and the children that were still with him were like, you are saying this because you are old. But when it came and it was really the shirt of Joseph, it was a miracle. You understand? He said, I told you that I could smell Joseph. So he used this cloth and he used it to wipe his eyes and he could see once again. So in the end, all the whole family united and they went to Egypt, and what? They bowed. The father, the mother, and the brother, the 11th brother, they bowed to him, and this was the fulfillment of the dream that what? Yeah, that in the Quran, inni ra'ayta ahda ashara kawkaba, the 11 stars which are the brother, was shamsa wal qamar, the sun and the moon which is the father and the mother, ra'aytuhum lisajidin, that I saw them bowing. This was the fulfillment of the dream. So this was it. This story of Yusuf clearly shows that what? Whatever the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam revealed was divine, because there is no way you could copy someone and you do better than that person. You know, the Prophet was an illiterate. He couldn't even read and write in Arabic. He couldn't read and write in Arabic. Then how was he able to read and write in Hebrew? You know, it doesn't even make sense. And the story of Yusuf clearly stated this clear, because there are a lot of similarity, but the differences there, even where the differences you see a miraculous event in the Quranic part. So Alhamdulillah, we've come to the end of this part. Inshallah, we shall see next time. Please endeavor to like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It allows the algorithm of YouTube to show this message to more people, being Muslim and non-Muslim. Thank you.